sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. I don't wanna be the lover in your arms. I don't wanna be the one to keep you from home. I don't wanna be the crooked person in your heart. I don't wanna start, but I don't wanna start. Part-time love, how we suffer now. And I don't wanna waste no more of your precious time. I don't wanna say that everything will be fine. I don't wanna feel your tears on my skin. I'm a coward, baby, don't let me in. Part-time lover, how we suffer now. So I don't wanna sit in and get with you, baby, tonight. I don't wanna love, I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna have to tell you all the things I know. I don't wanna stay, but I don't wanna go. I am a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of war. There is no sickness, toil nor danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going going there to see my father. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm going there to see my brother. He said he'd meet me when I come. Hush, little darling, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird. Say, darling, say. And if that mockingbird don't sing, I'm gonna buy you a diamond ring. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. Darling, if you'll marry me, I'll buy you a house with a big oak tree. Say, darling, say, we'll live in the house with the big oak tree. 3 little babies on your knee. Yes, and I know that diamond ring. Yes, I know that diamond ring is gonna shine. So hush, little darling, don't say a word. I'm gonna buy you a mockingbird.
Good day, this is Thumbs United. We are working on the Foundation Project, which is a project that focuses on the foundation of the United States, focusing mainly on Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. And so, let's get to work. First, we're going to start off by selecting the photographs we want. So this is a series of photographs. This first folder, photographs driving through Pennsylvania, and we're actually going to be heading to this town called Carlisle. There's not too many because this is on the way. I was mainly taking video with the GoPro. And then these ones are actually from Ohio. We were coming from Michigan to Pennsylvania, so we have to go through Ohio, and then Pennsylvania is huge. I don't know if you know that, but it's like the Texas of the East Coast, where like it takes a solid 2 to 3 days just to get through it. Yeah, so that was the first folder. This next one is in Harrisburg, which is right next to Carlisle. Harrisburg is the capital of Pennsylvania. I have some interesting shots here. There's actually here that I saw The Dark Knight Rises. And that was like, wow, that was a good movie. I'm not being sarcastic at all. It's one of my favorite movies. And that's what got my sister into Batman. You have a lot of interesting bridges. And I'm just holding I'm not driving while I take these photos, I'm in the passenger seat. And sometimes I select photos kind of nothingness. And that's because they're still good photos that can be used during the animated slideshow, the photations. And we were actually in Pennsylvania because my sister did a dance intensive class. Oh man, you're in for a treat. This is the United States Army. It's a historical college. But it has this like outdoor museum with all this army gear and everything. And during this trip I was also taking 3D footage, and there are some really good shots of this tank in 3D. And this cannon. Now we got this helicopter. And now we're in Carlisle. A lot of this trip I don't know why I was walking by myself a lot, but I was just, walking the dog. This is when we first got our first Newfoundland. Her name's Beatrice. And so we would just walk. We'd walk to the end of the street. We'd walk through the park. I don't remember why I was doing it alone, but it was just like, okay. I think there were meetings or something my mom had to go to with my sisters. Oh, or maybe it was that they were moving her in or to the dorm or something like that. I don't quite remember. I fixed our furnace. I had to order 2 parts. One was the circuit board with new relays, and the other was a exhaust motor, an exhaust inducer, or whatever they call it, and so it was getting those 2 parts was about $160, but it was still cheaper than calling the repairman, because the repairmen are like $190, and that's just for them to show up at your house, and then they do charge you for the parts. So my mom was like, you know what, because he did it, saved the house, he said I can get a pizza. So it's not just a pizza, we went to this place called Buddy's, and it's a really good pizza, Detroit style pizza, but it's an hour away from our house. We drove there and I got the pizza. It was really good, and their salad is to die for. You can get it with this blue cheese dressing, and it has garbanzo beans and everything. But I really get it, just have the delivery mechanism for the blue cheese salad dressing, which I'm technically not supposed to have because it's not gluten free, but I still do. I just get a little bit of cramps afterward. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty funny because when I first found out I had all the allergies, I was like, oh, I just eat a lot of salads and stuff. And so on day 1, I started shopping around for gluten-free bread and all this kind of, healthy stuff that didn't have anything I was allergic to, because I'm allergic to corn, wheat, soy, walnuts, peanuts, and elm tree. And as well as being vegetarian. And I didn't want to give up being vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian my entire life, like literally my entire life. My mom was a vegetarian. There was just never any meat around, which I'm thankful for. But and I'm not like those vegetarians that say everyone should go vegetarian, and I'm not really under the illusion that if people became vegetarian that it would make the world a better place, because there's so many people that eat meat. Just the people who don't eat meat, that surplus of meat would just be wasted. So I don't really think being vegan or vegetarian for social political reasons is really kind of blah. That's the same. Okay, so we finished that trip. This trip was in about 2012. And that's my sister's. Okay, so this is in Maryland. And this is at the Landu Gardens. This was nice because we went there with my grandmother and we reserved a special golf cart, and so they actually gave us a tour of all the gardens. It's this pretty big estate and it's famous for its topiaries and everything, and the tour was really nice. They were worried though that when we went there, that because it had been raining for like weeks, that the ground would be too wet and the golf cart would ruin the lawn or get stuck. But it was dry enough when we got there, so the tour was very nice. We learned a lot about the guy who used to own the house. We also learned that the topiaries can only really be trimmed once a year, and that's so that the plant, because it takes a lot of energy for the plant to grow back from a clipping. And so, essentially, they don't want to stress it out. Because, the more stressed the plant is, the more likely it is to die. They only groom the topiaries once a year. If that. With these photos, most of them are kind of funny because I do a lot of macro photography, but I use a telephoto lens to do it. And so what that does is telephoto lenses, it's also called like a long angle. What they do is they really compress the background. So if you think about a wide angle lens, you see, 80 degrees. No, 120 degrees left and right, so there's a wide amount of subject matter. Let's say if you're taking a landscape photo, it's a large area of land left to right, but a telephoto, it zooms in, and so it's a small section, and so that means that when you're taking a picture of something in between, like you take a picture of a subject like this plant, the plant is really large, but the background is still a narrow piece of the outside world. So what that does is not only does it make the depth of field, everything that's far in the distance appears even farther and feels two-dimensional, but the part of the plant or the subject that you are focused in on seems more dimensional and separated from the back world. But also, because it's telephoto, the depth of field isn't as it's still strong, but it's a little bit wider than a close-up shot if something's far away from you. If you're at the closest point of focus for a telephoto lens, then the depth of field is like razor thin. But when you're, maybe 30 feet or 40 feet away from the telephoto, the depth of field actually, because it's getting closer to the infinity point, the depth of field gets slightly larger, but there's still a great difference in the in focus and what's out of focus. That's what I like to do with the plants because they're actually really far away. And the telephoto lens will keep the whole thing in focus. But the background is way out of focus. And it's a small section of background that is even in the photo that makes composing the photographs, the macro photographs, even easier. Because instead of having to worry about a whole bunch of people or something not looking right in the background, you only have to worry about getting a small section of the background to look good. I did take 3D and VR photographs here. Not 360, they're 180 degree 3D photographs. Okay, so now we're in Philadelphia. This is the Eastern Penitentiary. It's the first penitentiary that was ever created. And it was created with the goal to be like the most miserable place ever. That's essentially what they said. And this was a complicated shoot because we got there and we only really had an hour before they closed. My mom and I take care of my grandmother, so she had dementia, and so it took us a long time to get her ready and everything. And so if we ever had to schedule something, we always had to do it kind of in the evening because, well, one, it would take her a long time to eat. She was very anti-food. And so it would take 2 to 3 hours to get through breakfast. And then a lot of times for museums and everything, we have to start early if we want to get there at all, and we were running late. Gotta eat that food. We left the penitentiary. Oh, so what I was saying is we were there for only an hour. So I kind of made this. I had my shoulder mount, and I fastened my 4K camera. It's a handheld. It's the Yai, the action camera. That one records 4K in a wide angle. And then I had the 3D camera there connected to it. The actual way it's supposed to be connected to the shoulder mount, and then I had the GoPro, the 3D GoPro, which I use for the 180 degree VR. I had that one taking photos continuously. So I got a lot of video footage and photo footage. My arms are really sore because I was holding the shoulder mount with only one arm, and in my other hand I had the DSLR, the Canon DSLR. That thing weighs a ton because I have the battery pack on it. And then this is the Chinese Lantern Festival. and we found a really good parking place for my grandmother and I in a handicap section. We pay for parking and we get out and we walk up to the Lantern Festival, and they're like, "Oh, it's closed." And we're like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's just for they were doing a fundraising event, and it was just for donors." Okay, so here. I don't think there's anything in this. Nope. So this is a separate trip. We flew into, this is New Jersey. Trenton, New Jersey. This is a fencing tournament. Took photos at in Washington, D.C. And we were just driving around. I was taking photos outside the window. My mom was driving, I wasn't driving. I want to be clear, I don't take photos and drive. Unless the camera is mounted to the car. Yeah, these photos were taken a year ago, I guess. It's crazy how time flies. Because this isn't from this fall, it's from last year's fall. Man, that's crazy. That's been a year ago. Because I feel like I just bought the hard drive that this is on, specifically for this project. So, and that was kind of the start of me buying a hard drive like every other month. And I'm just thinking like all the new stuff that I do, we still have to edit. There's like so much we have to do. And that's kind of what excites me, is getting these projects out of the door, get them edited. And this is weird, but I spend so much time working on them that by the time I finish like the second project I'm working on, like I'll go back and watch some of the stuff from the first project, and it's almost like I don't even remember doing it, because it's like, wow, this is what I was working on that whole time. And it's like, oh, not that bad. Because I'm always worried, is it good as it could have been? And for whatever reason, I feel like it's difficult to remember the positive, especially when you're doing something fresh. Like if you just started a project, because there's always problems, and the whole process of working on new projects is ironing and finding solutions to get the project to look better. But you remember the pain and the suffering, which as creative, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad feeling, because it feels good to get those problem areas out of the way. But you do forget to look at the whole picture sometimes. And so like going back and looking at some of my older videos, it's like, man, it took a lot of work to get it to look like that, and it's not that bad. In fact, sometimes some of them are like really good. And like the old books I have that I made, I give them as gifts, and everyone's like, man, these things are great. But like, I always give them away. I never keep them. So it's funny, because all the actual first prints and the first proofs, I don't have. But I've looked through them to make sure they're okay. And I'm going to be I have to stock up so I can have a portfolio to show people, but people do enjoy them. And I think people are surprised too, because I say I'm a photographer. And they're like, oh, what does that mean? And then they see the book and they're like, wow, this is a ton of photographs. Because a lot of people think, oh, photographers, one, aren't real artists. And the difference is kind of the scale. Like with painting, you work a week, 2 weeks on one image. And with a photographer, yes, it's easier to take the photo. Depends how you think about it, because you have to travel to the place, and you have all the expense of hotel and living in a new location to take the photographs. But so then once you have all the photographs, you'll come home with like 2,000 or 3,000. You still have to edit them, and even though the editing process is faster, you're not expected to have one photograph or two. You're expected to have a series of photographs. And that's my grandmother in the wheelchair. And this was a veterans parade we went to. And then we're going to the Liberty Bell. Okay, so I'm gonna take a short break. I'll organize this into folders. Well, you know what? I'll organize them in folders when I come back. Yeah, I'm still gonna take a short break. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let me check my phone and make sure it's recharging. Okay. So now I'm gonna start editing them. There's a total of like 400 and something photos to edit. But they'll go pretty quickly because they're digital and they were shot with the digital camera. So it's not like with working with film where it's like you have to really fine tune what you're doing. In fact, I'm gonna start over. Okay, we're gonna try. I doubt this will work because there's so many. There's so many, unique photographs. It's not like all outdoor photography or all indoor photography. I tried to make the settings as general as I could. Well, we'll see. Let me just be fine tuning it. I might actually finish this tonight. Yeah. That one's too similar. And some of them I am trying to make it look like they have an extreme high dynamic range. But others not so much. It's just the ones that do look like they can have a higher dynamic range. I'm leaving them that way, and then like this one. Yeah, it's a high range, but looks better if there are more shadows. So this is the penitentiary, and then outside of it is is Philadelphia. That's what we're looking at. I was really lucky on this trip where most of these photographs, every time we did anything, it was always seemed to be around the golden hour, which is like the best time to take photos, and that's when the color temperature that's outputted by the sun is usually at its warmest and brightest, both warmest and the brightest it can be. Like when it's high noon, the color temperature of the sun is this really high, bright white light, but in the afternoon, about 2 hours before, well, technically 3 hours before sunset, and that's when the hue of the sun, the white balance is very, very orangey, yellow, and gold. So that's when landscapes and cityscapes and even portraitures should all be done in that photography. And people do spend a lot of time shooting, because you only have an hour. And so when movies, want to shoot in the golden hour, it takes them days to shoot a scene, because you only have an hour to work with. And to shoot a scene, you have to set it up and do, each angle and everything. So to shoot, 5 minutes, well, what would be on screen for 5 minutes, you really need, 5 or 6 hours to do that. So if you're limited to only shooting, 1 hour a day or 5 minutes, you gotta shoot for like 3 hours. 3 separate days. No, we're not going to get this done today. Actually, I have to start shutting down. Trying to get my sleep schedule back ever since the holidays. It's been out of control. Where I can't fall asleep before 5 a.m. Whatever reason. I will get to bed at 2 in the morning, and then I'm just wide awake till 5 in the morning, so that's not good. I'm gonna try to get in bed. It's 12 now, 12 midnight. I'm gonna try to get to bed at 1:30. Then I'm gonna make some tea. I've learned that lemon balm is really good. It helps. It's actually a muscle relaxer too. It will help calm you down, and it's good for people with anxiety and with kind of we used to give it to my grandmother when she had the dementia, so she would get quite aggressive, and we gave that to her to help her relax without having to give heavy duty meds. And so we'll pick up tomorrow. We'll probably be streaming earlier, and we might go back to doing 2 streams. I might be able to do Half-Life 2 and a creative stream, but for sure we're going to be doing a creative stream to finish all these photographs, and then and if we're lucky we get Half-Life 2. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Bye bye.